.65 miles, 8 minutes 41 seconds per mile, taking it nice and easy along the lakefront today, trying to keep my heart rate in that zone 2 area, high zone 2, low zone 3 area. Not exactly a recovery run today, but definitely an easy pace. The last 2 days, in fact, I wanted to keep things a lot slower. Yesterday was more of a recovery day, and I kind of kept that mentality in for today's run as well, because over the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, I had 2 really long running days back to back. I had a 20-mile run on Saturday and then a 14-mile run the following day after that. So after that, I wanted to take it a little bit easier, but also still get out there, get the blood flowing, get the heart working a little bit, and work on some of that aerobic fitness. And to do that, I'm using both a heart rate monitor and a Footpod. And to cut to the chase, I don't think every runner needs both of those things. I think having one or the other will get you a lot of the same results, and you can kind of use either one of those to kind of achieve the things that I'm hoping to achieve by using these 2 devices together. And the idea for that is to be able to understand how hard your body is working as you're doing workouts, and also to see how your body is improving over time, with the ultimate goal being that you don't want to be overtrained or over-fatiguing yourself as you get to the marathon, because sometimes if you're training just by paces alone, it may be an inaccurate way of understanding how your body is feeling on a day-to-day or a week-to-week basis. In terms of understanding what these 2 things are, the chest strap heart rate monitor is something that I've been looking at lately and running with for a couple of weeks now, because the ratings that I get from my wrist-based heart rate monitors, no matter which watch I use, just don't seem to work out for me. And so I feel like I've gotten much more consistent and reliable results when I use the chest strap. When I'm using wrist-based, whether it's the Sunto or whether it's been the Apple Watch that I ran with before that, anytime I started running, the heart rate just kind of immediately pegged into like the 170s and 180s, which is extremely high. And I didn't feel like, even if I was running very slowly, that the heart rate was a correct number. And then the Footpod is a Stryd Footpod that I've been running with for quite a while now. And that's something that clips onto your foot and has accelerometers and all sorts of other technology in it that can give you a power reading. It gives it to you in the unit measure of watts. I don't really think that's all that useful, but I just look at kind of the number that it gives me. Now with the Stryd Footpod, it learns you over time as you collect data, and then it gives recommendations later on, so that way if you are running a marathon, it tells you should keep your power number within a certain range, so that way by the end of the race you haven't gone out too fast and you're not hitting the wall in the last 6 miles of the marathon. And so in instances where you're racing, or if there's going to be a lot of hill climbing, or there's other situations where just figuring out how hard you're working based on the pace data or your mile splits isn't going to be all that accurate of an indicator of how much energy you're using up, the power number from the Footpod I think is really great thing to have. I also like from the Footpod that I have that I'm getting pace and distance information. I run in the city, certain areas GPS data just isn't all that reliable, and I feel like running with that has been much more accurate. But the main reason why I have it is because I want to have those power numbers, and I want the Footpod to be able to understand me and my training as it's been progressing, so that it knows how hard am I working at any given moment. Now the heart rate monitor also looks at how hard you're working at any given moment, because it's looking at how much blood does your body want to get pumped through your system for different levels of effort. And so they're kind of trying to look at the same thing, but because of the way they measure that and go about that, I think that there are some slight differences and strengths and weaknesses, or better use cases for one or the other. Like I said with the Footpod, I think a race situation where you're at a very high level of exertion, or if you're doing a lot of hill climbing, or if there's a lot of up and down where pace might vary and the amount of effort you're exerting at any given point could vary very quickly. I think the Footpod gives you a lot of great instantaneous data. The heart rate monitor, I feel like it kind of gives you some delayed information, or it's not as fine-tuned as how fast it can detect changes in your activity level. For example, if I'm running uphill, my heart is going to start pumping really fast. Even if I get to the top of that hill, and even if I'm running then downhill after that, my heart is still going to be pumping real fast because it thinks it needs to work real hard, which I'm not saying my heart is doing anything wrong, but I'm saying using the heart rate or the beats per minute as a measure of how hard is my muscles working might not be the exact number that I'm looking for. So I really like using the heart rate monitor for my easy runs like I've been running the last 2 days, and for runs where I'm trying to build aerobic fitness or build that mileage base for the marathon, so that way I can be stronger, not just in kind of fast twitch muscles, but also in those slow twitch muscles and on the overall efficiency of my entire respiratory system. And so that's where I like using the heart rate monitor and the power meter together. Over time, I can start seeing patterns in terms of on my easy days, I want to be in that high zone 2. Maybe if I get into the zone 3, that's okay. I ended up, for the last 2 runs, spending most of my time kind of in zone 3. I'm still working on my heart rate training, although I will admit that I am not a great devotee of heart rate training, and I haven't done a ton of research into it, but it kind of wraps into my idea, which I've been using for a long time, even without the heart rate monitor, that you want to be doing a lot of long, easy miles to build that mileage base, to build up on that respiratory or that aerobic fitness if you want to have fast marathon times, even if you're not running fast as part of training. It's counterintuitive, but you have to run slow to run fast, that kind of idea. So I really like it for days like today, where I can see really easily that I'm in the right zone and I'm not overexerting myself, which is really easy to do this time of year in Chicago. There's a lot more runners out now. The weather's warm. People are in their Chicago marathon training plans, and some people are even doing some secret racing out there. It's really easy to get caught up in that. And so when I have the heart rate that I can look at as a kind of a speed limiter, I really like to be able to use it in that way. Now, over time, I've been running with the Stryd Footpod for a really long time as well. And when you're using that with the power center that Stryd provides, it gives you kind of recommendations as to ranges of power that you should be in to zone 2 or zone 3. So kind of it extrapolates equivalents of heart rate training. And so if I didn't have that heart rate monitor, I can definitely use that. The other benefit, though, of using the heart rate monitor is just the way that the metrics are displayed. So on my Suunto watch, in any of the activity fields, you can get along the clock or the perimeter of the watch face, there are different zones. And depending on how hard your heart is working, that meter may change. And so I can quickly see that at a glance if I'm in the high zone 2, mid zone 2, low zone 2, or if I'm in zone 3, or hopefully not into zone 4 for some of these runs that I want to be slower. If I were looking at just the power number that I'm getting from the Footpod on my Suunto watch, all I have is a data field. So I have to then look at the number. Okay, it's at like 200, 204. Where does that kind of fall into line in terms of my zones? So I've got to kind of do some, not a lot of math, it's arithmetic, so it's not hard, but it's not the quick dial indicator. I wish there was a way that I could set that dial to correlate to zones in terms of power numbers. I don't think that's a feature that's available on Suunto. I don't know that there's any watch that does that. If you guys know of a way to do that with the power meter in like that kind of graphical interface, I would love to know about that, because that, I think, would be something that would be also useful, and then maybe I wouldn't need to use a heart rate monitor. That's my admittedly a little bit topical understanding of heart rate training, but these are why I have these 2 devices and why I like running with them. I just like having the data to look at, to kind of give me indicators of what my body is doing. It's kind of a feedback mechanism, and I find that the more I look at these kind of devices, the less I'm caring about pace. And I think ultimately that's going to be a good thing, because the times come when you're consistently training and doing your hard days hard and your easy days easy. That's something that I've learned from my last marathon training block. And so I'm having a lot more faith in being able to train that way and not worrying so much about who's passing me along the lakefront in Chicago and how fast or not fast I'm running. So just my take on what I've been doing lately and what's been working for me and what I'll be doing as I prepare for the Chicago Marathon, which everyone in Chicago is just like obsessed about the Chicago Marathon, which they should be. It's an awesome race. But like people are doing countdowns and stuff. And so it's kind of making me start to get nervous, even though I'm not really going to start thinking about it till the end of July. So before I go, I do want to remind you guys about the charity runner of the week. It's Bobby Buchanan, a good friend of mine. He's running the Chicago Marathon for Project Purple, hoping to fight pancreatic cancer. I've donated $70 to his fundraising efforts, and if you'd like to learn more, I'll post links in the description. And that's all I have for today. Thanks so much for making it to the end of the video, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.